on the air. That would be very, very satisfying for me. And we are now officially
Isn't that interesting?
back on the
Isn't
air.
that interesting
There
that
we
we
are.
just processed that whole situation as demonstrated?
Yes.
Okay. So here we are. So let's grab that feeling. So we're talking about harnessing feelings that are going to support you in your way of overcoming the barriers, the challenges, the adversities, and really being able to release and then harness something. So that satisfaction that you feel, and what is that satisfaction? So that feels like accomplished. Does it feel
Actually, I don't think that's
relieved?
accomplishment. Relieved, without doubt. A sort of a warmth, as I say. Look, to me, fulfilling, what I set out to do is very important. Okay.
Yes.
Completion, achievement is important to me.
Completion, achievement.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Actually,
These are
completion's
values.
a funny one because
Yeah.
often people have a bit of a joke at me because I have to finish a story. Okay, I can't
That's
leave a story
actually
half
really
done.
good.
I think so.
It's really good.
Yeah, but we're getting there.
Can I tell you why it's really good?
Tell me.
Because this is tied into NLP as well, and what we're teaching fundamentally about communication. We are actually taught and trained as far as stage presentation to speak in what they called isomorphic loops. So now I'll just speak in layman's terms a little bit. It's where you may get distracted and go off track and start telling stories about things that may not be even relevant to where the conversation started.
Right.
But a good facilitator, and this is what makes them really good on stage, actually, because I learnt the stage presentation, element of, and would you like to know a little bit about that, by the way? What that would
You've actually
look
brought
like?
something up to me that's interesting because a good comedian does this really well.
Okay.
They circle back.
Well, I'm definitely not a good comedian.
Oh, well, I love a good comedian. When they do that, they run off on a different train of thought, but it's not. It's obviously been very structured, but then they'll drop the line. Okay. Yeah, that'll happen later, and I like when they do that.
That's very interesting. And when it was taught, because this was above mastery, this was where you went on and learned how to speak publicly and really be able to capture a audience and really draw them in so they're interested in your conversation. And believe it or not, going off on these wild, bizarre tangents were part of that training. And here's the kicker, right? Everybody that was training, it was a total head. I won't say the rest of that, but it was really difficult. Okay. It was so hard to kind of fathom. I remember people practicing in the hallways before they went out because they had to present their topic. It could be on, how to have a successful business, but they had to be concentrating on how to speak in these isomorphic loops.
Right.
So they had to prepare stories and they literally had to do, and I say they, like I'm not in the equation. I'm actually in the equation here, but I'll tell you what I did. I had the too hard basket happen.
Right.
So I went, I can't do this. And you know what? I've got a funny feeling that this is just one of my natural components.
It's just who you are.
And it is just who I am. Okay. And a lot of that is played out through a bit of ADHD.
Right.
And my knack
Hence why you fit in around here, by the way. But there we go. Welcome to ADHD Wonderland.
Yeah, absolutely. The land of neurodivergence. So, hey, the fact was that I knew my subject. I had to know what I was going to say. But then when I went out and I found myself doing the stories, I found myself like, even where was I talking about before? Like, where were we? We were actually talking about you harnessing and what that means. But now I'm on an isomorphic loop.
We'll get back eventually. It'll work.
Where I'm now talking about, the element of stage presentation where you learn how to speak in story, and people love stories.
They do.
So they learn better.
Okay.
So by
Is
going
that
around
like when
in
you're trying to learn
stories,
something, it's best to learn a song because there's a rhythm to it? And
yeah,
yeah,
because
okay.
that's harnessing.
There we go.
So that's also another conversation we didn't finish. So to see, there's two there that we've got to do a
Look
full
at us
circle
go.
with.
Okay.
So we see how we're doing this naturally. So yes, but like you say, you've got the knack. You like to finish a story,
I
and
do.
the fact that you will come back to it. Now, have I ever not finished it? A story, absolutely. And how do I know this? Because my class has kept me accountable.
Is that right?
And they go, Terry, you started telling a story this morning about such and such, but you didn't finish it. So at least someone kept me on track. But that's that part. Now, coming back to the harnessing. So the harnessing is called anchoring in NLP.
Okay.
So anchoring is like what you just said, like it could be music and it could be around
Gotcha.
the fact that a song, like even in the care facility where Ian is, I notice the music that they play is very much coded to that genre of people
Makes sense.
because it really elicits,
Mhm.
and the word is eliciting, it elicits these feelings inside them.
Well, look, if the people are over the age of 70, for argument's sake,
Mm.
there's no good going out there and playing Eminem.
No,
Okay?
exactly.
It's not going to work. It's not really going to engage them.
And then there can be songs too. This has happened and I've
Okay.
seen it where it comes up and it's actually triggered a bad memory.
Really?
So, oh yeah, because like, have you ever had a song on the radio? So, for example, and it reminds you of someone,
Mhm.
and then it brings about all these feelings. So it can actually do that as well. So it
Sure.
can go flip. It can go this way or it can go that way. So anchoring is where you can harness a person to feel that feeling of their greatness. So, for example, the satisfaction, the warmth.
Sure.
You said achievement. See, these are your value systems.
Okay.
These are truths as well.
Right.
So, by me saying that you get a lot of satisfaction by being able to reach a lot of people, plus
It's
you
important.
then are honouring what you set out to do.
That's kind of the point. And certainly I can
Mm.
speak on this. It's
Yeah.
not like this is never about, I know this sounds crazy to say, it's just not about ego. It's about what we need to achieve.
Yeah.
Right? I want to make the world a better place.
Yes.
I want to give people a voice. Okay? I think it's
Yes.
incredibly important.
Yes.
And I only learnt that because I was in a position where I lost my voice and I realized quite not,
Boom.
physically, but certainly in another way. And I realized how incredibly important it is.
Yes.
And so I don't want other people to feel that way. I don't want them to feel that pain. So
yeah, there you go.
so for me to reach as many people as possible, the importance in that is not ego, not to go, oh gee, we've got these big numbers and yada yada yada, which is nice, but it's the fact that okay, the more people we reach, then they talk to other people, and there's this flow on effect, and it's actually bringing positive results to people's lives. Yeah.
Now, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
So, with what you're saying, because this means a lot to you, and I do want to bring back the achievement because I'm going to do some truth bombs here. So, these are the truth bombs. You actually really, achieving things means something to you.
It does.
Right? Also, achieving what you set out to do is important to you. And obviously that ability to be able to reach as many people as possible. And there will be human component of that. That's natural, right? And
of course.
But there's the deeper part,
Yep.
which is your value system. Now, as a result, you are going to feel so successful by the time we're finished doing this show. Now, what did I just do then? I just did what we call a truth. It is a truth where they call them truisms.
Okay.
And people like facts. So when you state 3 facts to a person and say this, and this, their brain is going, yes, yes, and yes. And the thing that you say after that, they're more than likely to say yes. But the more truth bombs you can say in one hit, the greater the power of you convincing them that you're right.
I visualized a ladder as you were saying it, and you're going up each rung, okay, and you're getting to the top.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the sense of achievement, and it's also the sense of believing in it, right?
Oh, I could have an absolute field day here because you're talking about climbing up a ladder and you get a sense of that. And this is where we also teach. So we go deeper. So the foundational things, which is, you know, the sensory acuity, the anchoring, the understanding that it's not about all the story and all that stuff, but it's more about where are you now, and how does that make you feel, and then where do you want to be? And you've already answered that question as a great example, and as a result, you've got the show back on the air. That's just very coincidental. And, you know, it's go you know, that was amazing.
Oh, look,
and
I can spell IT, that's about it.
Yeah, and this is the beauty of being able to speak in this way, and it is science. It is very much science.
Oh, great.
The way people think, the way people tick, the way they feel. And, you know, even when you say going up that ladder, right? Now, if I was doing the Ericksonian part, because I'll just say briefly that Ericksonian is the hypnotic part of NLP, which is only a very small compartment of it, but it's what, you know, I did go on and train on a lot because I'm an Erickson girl. Like I tell everyone, he's my granddad. But the Ericksonian style is very much about the client deciding on their goals and making their decisions. It's got nothing to do with the facilitator. We're not making the suggestions. You are. So if I was doing an Ericksonian model with you, I'd be going, well, Aaron, now that we know that you find it very important to fulfill what you set out to do.
Yep.
Now that we know that achievement means a lot to you, and for you to be able to reach those huge numbers, that's going to give you a great sense of achievement. I wonder what's going to be on the other side of the ladder. So as you step up that ladder, and then you see what's on the other side. Now, that's really typically Ericksonian.
Okay.
So that's where you're hypnotizing them with their eyes open. But what you're also doing is you are allowing them, because you made a visual in your mind about stepping up the ladder.
Yeah, I did.
And that's what people do. And when we can understand how people are, you know, how their value system works, how to communicate with them, this is what makes it so incredible. Do we have time for one more question or anything like that? Because I know we've got a
very quick one, but let's do it. Why not? Let's have a go. All right. Now you're pushing me on the buttons here because, as I say, everything has reset.
Genius zone.
I know. There we go. But while the computer went and lost its mind for a bit.
You are a
okay,
genius.
we have the computer back. Let's bring it back up on the screen too.
Bring it back.
And this is from Louise. Now, Louise, I think she's from Canada. Okay.
Oh, Kalananada.
Kalananada?
No, it is Canada.
I reckon it's going to be calendar, yeah. Calendar. I said calendar. I'm losing it completely. All right. The computer is now, of course, covering that up because the computer is definitely on our side tonight. Okay, while it's helping us, how about this? So thank you, Louise, for your question. How can NLP improve my sales skills?
Woo! Okay.
Tenfold.
Okay. Disclaimer. Okay. Disclaimer. I'm going to hit you up with a disclaimer.
Right.
And this goes back to my real estate days. So, you know, if I walked into a house and I hated it, there is no way known I'm going to try and push that baby onto someone and try and tell them it's the greatest house on the, ever. Now, I'm going to just give a little story on this one because this is hilarious. So, okay, I had to sell the worst house in Willerton. And it was literally the worst. It was spooky. It was dark. It had cobwebs. It was shocking, right? Now, when the vendor called me up, gee, what an old-fashioned term, you know, the owner called me up, they told me that. They said, Terry, we want you to come and sell it for us. We've already had 3 agents try. And look, we're not going to try and pretend that it's a good house because we know it's the worst in Willerton. Right. It also had a driveway like this, right? So it was almost like, whoa, maybe a skateboarder's dream, but it was. Well,
that's it. You find out who's watching Tony Hawk and you know.
Exactly.
Get them to buy the house.
So guess what I did?
What's that?
And you're talking about sales here, girl. What I did was I advertised it as the worst house in Willerton.
Absolutely brilliant.
I absolutely called the elephant in the room and, you know, come and meet Lurch in the attic. And if you are, you know, one for spiders, you'll love this.
You're right.
and I just made that ad about the worst thing. So don't
people are going to
BS.
look at that and they're going to look at opportunity. And I think, and I don't want to take away from the question.
Yeah.
But yeah, that person's going to go, okay, I'm going to get a bargain here. There, or I would think that's how I would see it. I go, okay, clearly this is not an easy house to sell. I'm going to get a bargain here. I can throw some money at it.
I sold it in the first day.
Boom.
It had been on the market for ages. Now, going back to your question, okay, so don't BS. People can smell it. They know when you're doing something. So, sometimes, can you just blow that question up again for me, please, Aaron? I'm just so visual. Yeah, I just want to make sure that I'm on track.
You are on track.
And so can you just, all right. So, neuro-linguistic programming would say to you to use those truisms that I've just talked about.
Sure.
Also to anchor your client with what they want. Don't try to sell them something that there's not going to suit them, because you'll get a bad name anyway. So, make sure that you find out what usually they say. I'll tell you another little story. Sorry, I've got to do this. So I had a person who wanted to buy a house again in Willerton.
Right.
I was selling a lot in Willerton in the days. So basically, I found out what their number one thing was a shed. Now the shed was everything.
Yep.
But they did want a pool. Right. Now, the fact is that shed, and it also had to be a corner block so the guy could come in from, access, side access, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I did not sell him a house in Willerton. I sold him a house closer to Lingwood.
Okay.
But it had everything they wanted.
Beautiful.
But I knew he'd love it. And so if you can find out the two top things, the two top values, and don't try and find out everything, just find out two things that is really important to that person. And whether you're selling something or whether you're chatting someone up, or wherever that league may fall in, know what means a lot to them and bang on about it, and make sure that you are taking that time to ensure that what you are selling to that client does meet their criteria. And finally, harness them. Just anchor them into that real feel good, especially when you know that it's right and you've done all your due diligence and everything else. So, yeah, I
use that same theory myself when it used to come to, and I always recommend this with parenting, right? Don't take Aaron's parenting advice, but there we go. We'll give it a go. This about knowing someone's currency, right? And that in that situation, now the gentleman's currency is he needs a shed, he wants a pool. These are the things that these are the big tickers on him, right?
Yep.
So knowing what someone wants and exactly that, you're focusing on that rather than other stuff.
Exactly. Not getting lost, in the crocodiles. But yeah, so you just focus in on that. And look, what can I say? Stay tuned on this show, because in the next couple of weeks, I think it's next week actually, Jonathan Frost is going to come on. And he's a very logical man. He's very scientific.
Okay. Are his ears pointy as well? Is he Spock?
He's amazing.
All that logic?
He's really a very smart man.
I bet he is.
So he'll come on. He'll talk about why it's really important, because his trajectory of his life changed when he learnt how to become a coach, and he is talking about NLP.
Okay, awesome. Let's get on with that. Thank you so much for being part of the show. For those people who have stuck with us or watched the 2 bits and all that kind of thing, thank you so much for your patience. Really, really appreciated. We're getting some wild weather here, and I don't know if that's related, but anyway, we lost the net for a while. And for all the people who have been listening on radio for all that time at edgeradioaustralia.com, it's a great time actually to remind people of that. I know we put out these great podcasts and we go through social media, but if you ever just want to throw on something in the background, whether it be your phone, your tablet, your computer, in your car, if you've got the smart setup on your car, you can just cruise along, listen to edgeradioaustralia.com any time of the day or night. We've got great music. We've got podcasts playing all the time. So you might grab a really great story or something that will really change your life, or you might just drive down the road bopping yourself to bits. How good is that, right? So, don't forget that. Obviously, it's fantastic all around the world. People are listening on edgeradioaustralia.com. But it's just nice to have in your car while you're cruising along. All right, with that, we'll get out of here. Thanks for being part of the Genius Zone here on Edge Radio Australia.